Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. I must apologize for two things. Firstly, this video is bloody late. I wanted to get it done last week. That didn't happen. Lots of things got in the way. My apologies. Also, you know, delaying it for, 3 weeks on PC definitely didn't help matters. Second thing, I am going to be either coughing, spluttering, sneezing, or sniffling, possibly a combination of all four during this video because I'm still sick from New York. I managed to catch a rather exotic version of a bloody cold. So my apologies, but the show must indeed go on. I can't sit in self-pity for too long, as much as that is a hobby of mine. So, Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag is the 507th Assassin's Creed game in the Assassin's Creed series by Ubisoft. There have actually been a lot of Assassin's Creed games. There haven't just been 4 by any stretch of the imagination. No. Absolutely not. Assuming we don't count things like director's cuts, like the one for the first Assassin's Creed, which actually made the game bloody playable on PC. We had, of course, Assassin's Creed 2, Assassin's Creed Brotherhood, Revelations, Assassin's Creed 3, Assassin's Creed 3 Liberation on the PlayStation Vita, and that's not even counting the DS titles, there was at least 2 of those. And then, of course, we have Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, which was a little bit of a weird announcement. People were expecting the whole, oh, we're going to go back to ancient Japan thing. Indeed, the game even makes a reference to that early on. And then says, nope, pirates. Hopefully you like pirates. Turns out I do like pirates, so it wasn't too bad a plan. And they changed things around a little bit. They still have the Animus nonsense going on, but they did make the decision to, well, set the video game in a video game. So that's a very handy way of excusing all the nonsense bollocks that happens within this game. I guess it's a better contrivance than what we had previously with the whole explore the memories, do all this other thing. I've got to be honest, I lost track of the plot somewhere towards the end of Brotherhood. It got really silly. I actually skipped Assassin's Creed 3's single player entirely, although I did play all of the previous titles. So that's my point of reference. Okay. I want to talk first about the PC port, as always. If you do not want to hear about that, and you bloody well should, because there's a lot to say, then there is a button below, you horrible heathen. Anti-knowledge, book burner. So let's head to the options menu. Now, why is my cursor not moving? Because I'm using the joypad. Yes, I'm using a 360 pad. Why am I using the 360 pad, you might ask? Mouse acceleration, mostly. In fact, almost all mouse acceleration. Now, Assassin's Creed has never been great with the mouse and keyboard, but it's definitely been playable. Yeah? I did play Revelations, and I did play Brotherhood with the mouse and keyboard, and I didn't have too many problems. It's a little bit awkward because you've got that 8-directional movement, and it's very much a game based on parkour and free running and nonsense like that, so pushing your stick in a particular direction, misses, is a very good idea. If you can't do that with the keyboard, it gets a bit awkward, but it's always been fairly tolerant, so you can generally get away with not pushing in entirely the right direction, because the game kind of says, nah, that was the way you were going, we understand, don't worry about it. In this case, the game suffers from fairly serious mouse acceleration issues, which definitely reduced my ability to enjoy the game to the point where I decided just to go for the 360 pad. So that's kind of the first black mark against it. Regardless, you can rebind the keys, which is nice, but you can't mess around with mouse acceleration. There may be a third-party way of doing it, but frankly, you should never have to. Just bear that in mind. These sensitivity bars are really dodgy. You've only got 10 different presets here, so it's not great for mouse and keyboard, I gotta say. It's the kind of thing that you would have to be particularly tolerant of in order to enjoy. Now, graphics options. There's a lot to talk about here. So, I don't have everything on absolute maximum. I'm pretty damn close to it. The reason I don't have it on absolute maximum is because the game's performance is all over the bloody place. Now, I did extensive research on this. I looked through a variety of different benchmarks and articles. I also surveyed people on my Twitter asking, look, is this running well for you? Because it's not running that well for me. And it got a little bit better. Yeah? There was another driver brought out, there's a beta driver for NVIDIA that improves performance significantly, particularly on SLI setups, and the game was patched a number of times. Now, on release, the game's VSync locked the game to 30. Right now, for me, it's not doing that, but it may still happen for others. You know, your mileage may vary. Now, other things. You can't go to 120Hz on 1080p for some reason. You can only do it from 1440 by 900 downwards. I cannot explain that for the life of me, especially considering, look, there's like 3 different resolutions that support it. Everything else doesn't. What? You support 800 by 600 but not 120Hz? Why is that? I don't really understand. It's a little bit odd, to say the least. So this game pretty much locks itself to 60. Less than ideal. For those with 120 or 240 hertz monitors, consider that. I believe there are a couple of weird, wonky workarounds that you can use, but not within the game menu. Aside from that, I've got everything up to maximum with the exception of two things. One, AA. The weird thing about AA is they give a lot of different options, right? They're including TXAA, which is an NVIDIA-specific one. I like to use TXAA when I can, because, hey, it's NVIDIA-specific, it looks pretty good. But my attempt to use even 2 times in this game tanked the FPS down to 40. I don't know why that is, and a number of these other AA options did the same thing. The actual power draw on this seems to be ludicrously high. I don't know why. So I left it on FXAA. This is not the best. This is the fastest AA available, really. A lot of these are more accurate and will give you better performance, but there are some comparisons online that will show you that even the best quality AA doesn't really improve things that much in this game. Things do get a little bit blurry around the edges. Aside from that, shadow quality. Now, there are soft shadow options. You can go up to high here. It doesn't really create a huge difference in visual fidelity, yeah? I've tried them both, but with soft shadows on, I find that the game more than frequently drops below 60, spikes back up again, and gives you this very inconsistent frame rate that's not that fun to play. In big cities like Havana, I've had it tanked down to 50. On very high, it stays at 60 99% of the time, yeah? Motion blur, obviously, we turn off, and I can go all the way up with ambient occlusion, no problem. God Rays keeps resetting itself to low. I can't explain that. I keep setting it to high. It sets itself back to low. I don't even know what's going on with that. And I've left VSync off for the time being. It's kind of a whatever. So, graphics options, is there anything in particular missing here? Well, anisotropic filtering isn't here, and I'm really not sure why that is. It seems to be missing. So that's a little bit weird. Triple buffering isn't here either, and the VSync on certain machines is very dodgy, and as I said before, was a little bit weird. So, this game does have performance issues. It's not just on my machine. There's various benchmarks which indicate, yes, this game doesn't actually run as well as it should. Sound options, yes, you can turn sea shanties on or off. Not that you would ever want to do that. I cannot understand why you would. It's a bit weird, really, because there is a way to just turn them off in-game. Oh, man, I'm bunging up already. My apologies. Oh, yeah. Thanks, New York. Much appreciated. So, yeah, sea shanties on or off, and then you got your separate sliders. They're not really great sliders, honestly. Just 10 options on each is not that great. I prefer better than that, but I guess it does the job. Then you got your online settings. I turned pretty much all of these off by default. I didn't want any of this stuff interrupting my game. I also turned off all of the Uplay overlays. It says, oh, you shouldn't do that because it might cause your game experience to be worse, but I turned it off because I'm sick of having bloody request pop-ups all the time. So I got rid of that as quickly as possible. Something missing in here, you might notice. Yeah, there's no difficulty option anywhere. This is really strange, and it's actually going to be very pertinent as we go into the game. Since we're going to be having some dialogue on, you're probably not going to be able to hear it for the most part. I'm going to put the subtitles on here. Now, we're going to focus on the single-player mode. You might look at it and say, oh, wow, 15%. Yeah, there's a lot of content in this game. An awful lot. This is about, I would say, 5 to 6 hours in. For this play, I am not going to show you any of the story mode content because I don't want to spoil anything. We're going to be doing mostly side missions, of which there are plenty. So, without further ado, let's get on in, shall we, and have a look at Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. They still have not got rid of this loading thing, but I'm okay with that. At least gives you an option. Hey, it's Altair! Well, turns out you can actually get an outfit. If you played any of the previous Assassin's Creed games, it gives you, like, an Altair outfit, which is kind of neat. I don't think it benefits you in any way, and it obviously looks very, very conspicuous. It's like, yeah, guys, I'm stealthy. Pay no mind to the guy in the big white Arabian shawl of some sort. I don't know. Alright, so we are currently at one of the forts that I was able to capture, one of the many side quests that you've got in this game to sink your time. You can take over a fort, it will give you a spawning point, it will also generate some assassination missions, so I think we're going to take a few of those. Now, you might notice I've got a boat. Well, a lot of what goes on in this game is based around your boat, and trust me, that is a very good thing indeed. If you are sick of the Assassin's Creed formula, you will be happy to know that you will spend an awful lot of time basically sinking ships instead of stabbing people with the same sodding QTE sequence over and over again. You might say, well, TotalBiscuit, it's not really a QTE. Yes and no. To some degree, it really is. I'll talk more in depth about the on-foot combat system in a moment. Now, before we take our ship out to sea, this is the Jackdaw. This is the ship that you get stuck with pretty much the entire game. You can even capture bigger ships, but I don't believe you can ever use them outside of this sort of weird fleet action mode, which is just send them on missions for a while, and they come back with stuff for you. So you can upgrade your ship, as you can see right here. These menus are, for the most part, more flashy than functional. There's no big surprise for you there. They've always loved that level of presentation. Not that I don't appreciate it. I actually really do like the level of presentation that Assassin's Creed games generally have going for them. Their interfaces are very shiny indeed, but perhaps not the most practical ever. Thankfully, what I will say in terms of its PC port is yes, actually all of this is mouse controlled and even supports the mouse wheel, which is quite lovely. So that's always good. It'll also, if you mess around with the mouse, it'll actually change all the key prompts back to the keyboard and mouse, which is a very nice feature that I feel more games certainly should have. So you can upgrade all of these. You can upgrade them with materials. As you can see at the top, these are materials that I have. These two are trade goods, and I believe you then need to use cloth and wood, and I assume that's metal in order to actually build stuff for your ship. Most of the upgrades can actually be done at sea, which is a little bit strange, and then a few of them are gated behind various pieces of story content, like, say, the diving bell, for instance. I'm going to switch out to the Altair outfit because it does look a little silly. You can craft various outfits as well as buy sword sets and pistol sets. A lot of these are actually gated. Yeah, an awful lot of them. You'll notice that, I believe it is the, let's see, yes, the Persian scimitars, the blades of Toledo, Scottish broadswords. These are all gated behind certain requirements. And a few of the pistol sets are as well. 1, 2, yeah, 2 sets of pistols there. So these are your weapons, and this is about as far as you can go with the equipment, yeah? And that and outfits. Now, the outfits do give you some information, like, say, I think it is the stealth outfit. It claims specifically designed to improve the chances its wearer will remain undetected. It does not tell you exactly how well it will work in that respect, or give you any info whatsoever. Increased resistance to enemy attacks. How much? We just don't know. Yeah? We have no bloody idea. So I'm going to switch back to Edward Kenway's robes. There we go. So character customization in general is a little bit weak. Let's just put it that way. You also do have various sort of secondary items, but you don't have that many of them. You got like throwing knives, smoke bombs, and the ability to throw money. And as far as I'm aware, that is pretty much it. You can also pick up weapons off the ground, like, say, a large axe or a musket. You can use those, but from what I can tell, that seems to be about it in terms of your actual character customization. It seems like they have dialed that back significantly in favor of ship customization instead. So, let us go a-sailing, shall we? Now, controlling the ship is surprisingly satisfying, I've got to say. The ship moves like a ship would. It turns at a relatively slow pace. The actual quality of the animations in general, and just how the ship reacts to your commands, and how the sailors on your deck react to your commands is astonishing. I mean, the level of detail on the ship is phenomenally good, and I actually like the naval combat system a lot, which is good because you're going to be doing an awful lot of that. You will. There's an awful lot of naval combat to be had here. First thing I would say is that the game actually kind of looks gorgeous on PC. So, as much as I hammer on the PC port, and rightfully so I might add, the game does look great. It's not the best looking game by any stretch, but it has some fantastic water effects. I really like that, and some really lovely environments. Texture quality is maybe not as good as I would have expected, but then we are talking, of course, about a large open world game, so perhaps they do have an excuse. There's a lot to see here. Alright, so we're going to go hunt some Spanish ships, I believe. Aha, perfect. Sink 3 Spanish gunboats. Alright, well, none of those are actually gunboats, but we're going to sink them anyway. Now, weapons-wise, your ship has a number of different things, including the basic sort of chase cannons, which will fire chain shot. These are designed to stun an enemy ship. You also have your swivel guns, which every now and again will give you a hold down Y to do critical damage kind of attack. Then you got your broadsides, as you can see here. I think I just crashed into something. Yes, I did. Thankfully, it doesn't do too much damage. There we go. Oh, there we go. It's alright, I'm not just wrecking the ship for no reason. And you also have things like a mortar, and you've got fire barrels at the back as well. So depending on where you turn, depends on what weapons you can actually use. So you want to use the fire barrels, you turn towards the back, and then you hit the right trigger, and so on and so forth. Yeah, it's not a particularly difficult game to master in terms of the ship combat, but it's the feel of it is really, really good, yeah? It very much rewards stout maneuvering and smart play. If you get under the full broadside of a frigate or, God forbid, a man of war, you're not going to last very long, brace or no brace. You've got to be a little bit careful. The downside of the combat system, at least... in fact, actually, it's not just the combat system, it's the game in general, is the game's far too bloody easy. You really have to go out of your way to actually find a serious challenge in Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag. The same Assassin's Creed problem that has been present for so many different games is present here, and with no difficulty selector, it's even worse. You can kill thousands of people with no problems whatsoever. This applies to the naval combat as well. Gunning down things like gunboats and schooners is very, very easy. Gunning down a brig and even a frigate is not too hard. In fact, you've really got to be ganged up on in order for your ship to take any real damage or try to engage a man of war, which is generally not a very good idea. You would have to be idiotic to really lose all that much against a lot of the ships in this game. That's a bit of a problem, because there's complete lack of challenge in both the regular combat system and the naval combat system. It means that this game is fairly easy to get bored with. Let me demonstrate exactly what I mean. So we're going to actually board the ship. It's just a schooner, so I don't expect too much resistance. But I'll show you the combat system on the ground, then we'll go to, say, one of the larger ports and maybe take an assassination mission there so we can show you what's going on. If you are even the slightest bit familiar with how Assassin's Creed goes, then you are not going to be remotely surprised by how the combat actually works in this game. The only real addition is the ability, and maybe this was in Assassin's Creed 3 as well, but... the only real addition is the ability... How did he hit... I'm sorry, what? Are you kidding me? They're attacking me through the boat. That's a joke. Oh, it's kind of appropriate, I guess, when I said, oh yeah, it's so easy, and then they attack me through the boat, so I guess the only way they can kill me is to cheat. Alright, well, I'm just gonna hang up here until my health very slowly regenerates, so we can actually take a fight. Anyway, as I was saying... aside from the ability to quick-fire your pistols in combat by just kind of pressing the Y button and it'll... I'm actually throwing money everywhere. That's not a good idea. There we go. You can quick-fire your pistols on something that you're sort of aiming at. It's really quite easy to do for the most part, as long as you're close enough. And that usually results in an instant kill, as demonstrated. Very, very easy thing to do. Then everything else is just kind of the same as what you... have seen previously. All of the animations are pretty much identical. They did have to do a couple of things for the whole dual-wield swords. So that's a little bit different, but killing people in this game is shockingly easy, and especially in towns where you're slaughtering guards, it's a joke. I mean, the guards are incredibly stupid for the most part. The AI is weak. I've killed guards in front of other guards, and they haven't even noticed. It happens an awful lot, and they just kind of dance around you one at a time, Big Trouble in Little China style, and just get slaughtered one after another. And yes, we are back to the good old press B to counter and win kind of clause, and the only time that does not work is when you are being shot at from a distance, in which case you have the A button, which usually allows you to take a human shield to eat the shot 100% of the time. It is not remotely hard to deal with. So, as a result, the game sort of enters this really weird spot where it's almost a masturbatory power fantasy. It's like, how cool is it to be a pirate, guys? Your crew is completely loyal. Everyone basically loves you. They cheer for you when you come on board, for God's sake. That's a lot of pirate loyalty that you managed to get there. That's very, very impressive, considering. There doesn't seem to be anything mutiny-based whatsoever. Everyone's just happy all the time. And I've played other pirate games, and that has not been the case. Like, your pirates get seriously pissed off if they're at sea for too long, they get demoralized. There's no morale system, in fact, in this game whatsoever. So, everything on that particular plane is simplified, but just in general, combat-wise, this game is very, very simple and very, very easy. As I said before, you've really got to go out of your way to challenge yourself. That means pushing your wanted level up to 3 or 4, for instance, where frigates will come at you. Getting rid of your wanted level is just so astonishingly easy. Any ship that you board and successfully take will allow you to reduce your wanted level, or you can pay an absolute pittance to an officer in pretty much any dock to reduce your wanted level again. So, really, there's no way you're going to get your wanted level up all that high. So here we are at least dealing with a pirate hunter. It's like, oh, that looks intimidating in comparison to the schooners. I mean, yeah, it kind of is, but the amount of damage this thing actually does is not really that good. I just unloaded with some heavy shot there. It's already down below half health. Gonna speed up to full, take the ram, and I believe it... Did it just sink itself? It almost did. It did severe damage to itself by the looks of it. We've got a couple of gunboats on us, but I'm not massively worried about those. I mean, this ship is not even fully upgraded. I'm about maybe half upgraded on the Jackdaw right now. And the amount of damage I could do is just absurd. And it's not like the enemy can even aim all that well. It's a little silly, really. I'd expect pirate hunters to be a really big challenge, but, you know, they're not. The only time they are is when you really get ganged up on. Which is kind of happening now, which is kind of great. But I'm going to unload heavy shot into this guy. So he's going to go down. Then I'm just going to, like, one-shot everything else. So, whatever works. Oh, hi. Sup, you're dead. Anyone else? Anyone else? No, didn't think so. You're running for the hills, running for your life. Maybe we'll just sink you as well. You just blow up ships in a single blast most of the time, which is highly excessive. I want to challenge out of my Assassin's Creed games. I do, and that's been the biggest problem with those games for a while, is they have not been a challenge. However, as negative as that is, this is still the most fun that I've had with an Assassin's Creed game since AC2. Because they at least tried to do something different. They tried to shift the focus a little bit. But the game is bogged down by its old systems and by its just flat-out refusal to abandon them. I think it's got to the point where, as much as it is nice to have a change of pace and a change of scenery, and as a result, Black Flag is certainly one of the better Assassin's Creed games in recent memory, it is still an Assassin's Creed game, and we need a major overhaul on some of this stuff. The combat engine has got to change. It is just so simplistic now. It is like doing a QTE. Really, all you need to do is hit the X button and occasionally hit the B button. And that is all the combat system involves. And compare it to any Spectacle fighter, or compare it to any of the Batman games, and tell me that the Assassin's Creed combat system is even close. It's not. It just is not even close. And this would be fine if the game was based mostly on stealth and assassination, but as with pretty much every Assassin's Creed game, that is highly optional outside of certain levels, and even then, it usually just gives you a bonus for being stealthy instead of actually requiring you to do it. There are a couple of situations where that is not the case, but... Slaughter time! Here we go. No one can touch me. Absolutely nobody can touch me. I mean, really. It's just a massacre. I'm hammering that X button and then just hitting B as they come in. I'm sorry, I played Batman for a while, and this isn't even close in terms of the combat. And this is the problem. I guess I'm thankful that the game doesn't focus too much on this, but there's a lot of it. I mean, there's a couple of hours, really, before you get to go free roaming with your ship and actually sinking stuff. So you've got to deal with a lot of stabbing, a lot of sword play, and this just kind of ridiculous combat system which doesn't reward any degree of skill for you whatsoever. You know, I can deal with it in multiplayer, right? Because that is a game that very much, and I do mean very much, encourages you to be stealthy, yeah? There is no actual combat system in the multiplayer. You click to kill, but it's all about the approach. It's all about staying incognito and the way that you did your kill and from where that really matters. And I think, honestly, if any, they've got to go one of two ways. Either they've got to grossly simplify the combat system and have a focus on assassination, yeah? Or they have got to completely redo the combat system and just say, look, our combat system is ludicrously out of date, it's incredibly casual, there is no depth to it whatsoever, and it is solely about flash, yeah? You know what I said before, masturbatory power fantasy? That is what I would describe this combat system as. It is hammering the X button to do fancy stuff and be basically a murder god, yeah? I am a killing machine. An absolute killing machine. I slaughter my way through 20 or 30 guards without near a scratch on me. It's gotta end. Alright, let's talk about the rest of the content in this game, just how open world it is. I love the idea of sailing the seas, finding myself some treasure, going exploring islands, doing hunting and things like that. And frankly, the game does a pretty damn good job of that. As I said before, the main problem I've got with it is that it doesn't present a challenge while you're doing that. But sailing the seas and actually exploring is really fun, yeah? Maybe it's just because I really wanted a good pirate game. Maybe that's why. And that's why I'm willing to accept some of the faults that Assassin's Creed 4 actually has in that respect. It's a possibility. Yeah, it really, really is. That very well could be why I'm actually having fun with this, because I wanted a game about sailing the seas and captaining a ship and upgrading my ship and looting cargo and things like that. But what it does provide is actually a lot of fun. You visit a variety of interesting locales. I absolutely love pretty much all of the design, really, on the towns and different ports and things like that. They look great. Havana looks fantastic. Nassau looks great, too. It's a really nice-looking town here. In fact, most of them actually are. And it also offers you plenty of opportunities for nonsense climbing and parkour and free running and all that kind of stuff. Now, as I've said before, these towns are host to a variety of different things, including assassination missions. I think I've actually done everything in Nassau, by the looks of it, aside from getting a couple of random collectibles here and there. And the old Assassin's Creed trappings of you better climb this thing, well, that's still there, yeah? And we're gonna hide collectibles in places that are slightly difficult to get to. You know, funnily enough, as much as I despise platforming, I actually miss a lot of the stuff that was in, I think it was Assassin's Creed 2 and Brotherhood, where it would be this kind of big climbing puzzle, and it would unlock something really nice for you at the end. There doesn't really seem to be a lot of that. I think that mostly comes down to the changes with Assassin's Creed 3, where you don't have these massive great cities anymore. They've advanced the timeline, which means you got a lot of smaller frontier towns. So as a result, how does he even... I'm just not going to ask. As a result, you don't have as many interesting places to climb. Kind of sucks. Yeah, I would definitely appreciate if they had a few more things like that. Assailing a fort is quite interesting, but again, there's not much of a climbing challenge there. So if you're someone that was a fan of the free-running aspect of the previous titles, especially 1, 2, Brotherhood, and Revelations, you're not going to find too much of that here. And again, it almost seems out of place. Like, why... They kind of tried to explain it away by saying, yeah, he spent a lot of time on the sea, so he climbed a lot of masts and things like that, so he's very agile. Yeah, but... I mean, he free runs like an assassin, exactly like an assassin, in fact. He has no formal assassin training whatsoever. So it does feel a little bit weird. You'd think maybe he'd do things in his own unique way, but he really doesn't, for the most part. He does it just like any other assassin would. And it feels almost like Edward Kenway is just a stand-in for all of the other characters. Thankfully... he's a far more interesting character than a lot of the other ones. Maybe not Ezio, but certainly Connor from Assassin's Creed 3. This guy is funny. Like, he's genuinely funny. He's got some really good dialogue. In general, the dialogue in this game, I've got to say, is probably the absolute highlight of it. It's really, really good, and I was surprised by that. Genuinely surprised. The writing is spot on. It uses a lot of sort of authentic-sounding pirate terms... and nomenclature and terminology. Now, when I said fast travel, this wasn't quite what I had in mind, game. Will I survive this? This is really interesting. I've never seen Havana from this size before. Well then, welcome to Havana. What? Evidently the game still has a few bugs here and there, as you can clearly see. Yeah, it's really, really, really well written. So well written. Impressively so, for the most part. I love the dialogue, I really do. It's the absolute highlight for me. And it's actually kind of getting to the point where I want to do all of those missions so that I can actually hear the dialogue. Don't worry, just murdering people at random isn't going to make too much of a difference. It's alright, we can fight them. Again, I mean, am I really concerned about these guys? Absolutely not. Pretty much an infinite number of them, and I'd still absolutely slaughter them, so hey, whatever. Whatever works. There we go. Hit the X button. It's a little bit of a weird contrast, I suppose, because you kind of want to sail the seas and explore everything and do all the side missions, but... you are also itching for the next piece of great dialogue and interactions between the characters, which is an unusual situation for me, because I usually don't care that much about that. But because it is so damn well written and so well voice acted, I am really impressed by it and I actually just want to continue with the story. So that's a real plus. I mean, AC has always had pretty good writing, but I think that Black Flag actually has some of the best. Maybe I just like the idea of the pirate talk. Maybe that's it. Maybe it's just a kind of attractive thing, but I really do think that it's really well written. Really interesting use of sort of historical metaphors and things like that, and terminology that just doesn't make sense in any other game, but it's great here and sounds fantastic. Oh, man. This slaughter's kind of hilarious. I'm not even trying. But, hey, there's pirates that'll actually help me, because, you know, just in case I need a little bit of help here. Now, frame rate tanks in Havana, by the way, it's with the settings that I'm currently using, it's basically the only place that it does, but Havana is a very big city, and apparently it hits you pretty hard, which is funny, because it never did that in Brotherhood and Revelations. Don't really know what's going on with that. Is it a fun game? Well, I've got to say, I've enjoyed my time with it so far, but I'm getting to the point where I don't really want to do any of the other side activities. I just kind of want to beat the story. Because the side activities, aside from doing crazy things like hunting down a man of war and attacking that, are just very, very easy or very tedious. Like, trying to get these animus fragments that are deliberately hidden at the top of really awkward to climb trees or something like that. Or chasing down sea shanties, of all things. That's the kind of thing which sounds interesting initially, but rapidly gets rather dull. So I want to just beat the story, and then I'll probably be pretty satisfied with it. It's a shame the game didn't kind of provide more challenge up to that point, but hey. I think the naval combat is a good way to go, but it makes me wonder exactly where they will go next, if at all, with Assassin's Creed and actually using that naval combat. I've got to assume that they just won't. Yeah? They probably won't do any more of that, which is kind of a crying shame. Because it is the naval combat, I think, got some mileage in it. It really does. And this kind of comes down to the key point, where I absolutely wish that this wasn't an Assassin's Creed game. I wish that there was a massive focus on the naval combat, more so than there currently is. What they currently have is really good, but I wish there was even more than that. I wish there was more depth to the choice of ships. I wish there was more depth to the upgrades. I wish there was more depth to fleet actions, if any, because the fleet system in this game is basically just you capture ships and then you send them on these missions and then they come back like 24 hours later with booty and stuff. It's very much a smartphone way of doing things. I'm not really sure why they decided to go down that route. I also wish that there was an economy of some sort. Looting ships, they only really have two goods that you actually would really want to sell. You can also go hunting for stuff that's valuable, like bull shark pelts and things like that, but for the most part, you will get sugar and rum, and apparently that is it. That is the only stuff that people in this world actually care about. I don't know. Feel free to try and explain that one, but there's the kind of the bare bones of an excellent pirate game there. An excellent pirate game. At the moment, I would call it is a good pirate game, but it's merely a good pirate game. And it would be so much better if it wasn't Assassin's Creed. It almost feels like they wanted to make a pirate game, but they were just a little bit too afraid of making some new IP, and they wanted to attach it to a very, very popular franchise. And it is a very, very popular franchise. Absolutely a very popular franchise. Assassin's Creed is a massive seller for Ubisoft. There's no real doubt about that. So it makes sense, but that also means you are tied to the inevitable Assassin's Creed tropes. And I could do without that. I really, really could. Is the PC port any good? Well, I've explained in the options menu why there are numerous problems with it. And it's hard to recommend, but at the same time, I know it's very much a your mileage may vary kind of situation. Some people have no issues with it. Some people do. I, after some tweaking and some updates, basically managed to eliminate a lot of the issues, although not as many as I would like. AC3 had similar performance problems on PC. Ubisoft might claim that PC is a lead platform right now, but I have a strong feeling that they spent most of their time on the PS4 and Xbox One versions of this game, not on the PC version. I don't necessarily blame them for that, but I expect better of Ubisoft when they keep trying to court PC gamers and saying, oh yeah, totally, you know. Do I really believe them when they say that the PC is the lead platform for Watch Dogs? I don't know, it's kind of hard to believe, really, considering. It certainly wasn't for Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, even if it is best on PC. It's only best on PC by the sheer virtue of the amount of horsepower that this damn thing has. And we also, of course, had a senior member of Ubisoft basically saying you don't really need to optimize for PC, you can just buy a better graphics card. That was a bit of a mistake. Don't say things like that, because it makes you sound like an absolute plonker. And rightfully so. Get back here. Oh, jeez. Will you have fun with it? Well, if you haven't played Assassin's Creed in a while, you probably will. You probably will. Aside from the lack of challenge, there's still a lot of fun to be had in assassinating people, obviously, even if the game doesn't really focus that much on it. The stealth aspect has been beefed up slightly, not by much. This may have been something that was in Assassin's Creed 3 as well, I don't know because I didn't play a lot of it, but in Assassin's Creed 4 you have this sort of invisible brush that you can go in. It's basically just bushes and foliage, you can sneak around in that, and it does give a kind of a more organic feel to the stealth element of it. Now, as I've said before, people are just dumbasses in this game, including captains of ships, I might add. Like, there are some ship stealth sections, which are the most ludicrous things. Like, yeah, stay out of sight. It's like, I'm about 50 feet away from this ship, and it can't see me? In what universe is that going to actually happen? Do they not understand what a lookout is? I mean, really, you would see me a mile away, and I'm flying the black flag. I'm flying a pirate's flag, for God's sake. How does this Spanish ship not immediately know to open up full broadside on me? How dumb are these guys? The guards are very similar in that respect, but at least it makes sense in the stealth component on foot. Yeah? It does. Because it's a lot of sneaking, and you sneak into a brush, you can follow people in that brush, which is great, because a lot of the whole, hey, assassinate people while inside, say, a hay bale, was very much based on what you... Get out. I should just get my swords out, it makes the combat a lot easier, but hey, I like a challenge. Anyway. It's very much based on just waiting for your target to go past. In the case of this brush, it allows you to actually move actively, which is pretty good. So I feel that they have improved the stealth aspect of the game, but the stealth aspect is also almost 100% optional. Basically, you just get bonus money for being stealthy and not engaging in combat. And you also get something called memory sync, but you don't need that. It's just kind of a completionist thing for the most part, so you don't really need to worry about that whatsoever. Man, all I'm doing is running around killing people. It's like, yeah, pretty much. I mean, that's all the game really is, so I might as well do it outside the context of a mission. It's weird that they haven't put an infamy system back in this game, because I'm pretty sure I've killed half the guards in this town, and they do not recognize me at all, which is pretty comical. Also, the civilians aren't running to get help or anything like that, so it does mean that you don't have to be careful in a city whatsoever. I keep coming back to these same points, don't I? And I think it really is just the most valid of it. I just wish it wasn't an Assassin's Creed game. But... as negative as I sound, it's definitely the best Assassin's Creed game in a while. Yes, it's easy, but the ship combat is a massive change of pace. It's a really nice setting. The dialogue is probably the best in the series, I've got to say. They just need to overhaul the fighting. That's the major component of it now that's holding them back. Improve the naval combat a bit, make it a little bit more challenging. It's pretty good as it is. Make it a bit better. And then completely overhaul this fighting system on foot so that it's actually a fighting system, not just bashing X and hitting B when things need to happen. It gets overshadowed by so many different games. When was the last time I even took damage? Jeez. This is a little easy, I've got to say. There we go. Took some damage because I wasn't paying attention. Would I recommend it? There's a lot of content here, but a lot of it is very, very samey. If you like the idea of a pirate game, you might be disappointed by the fact that the actual piracy component doesn't have a lot of depth to it. There's little minor annoyances in this game as well that might actually get to you, such as the fact that it plays a tiny little cutscene every time you capture a ship. Every time. So when you're boarding a lot of ships, especially schooners, because it can clear them out in like one volley very, very easily, you're going to be subject to that cutscene over and over and over and over again. It's also chock full of these annoying Assassin's Creed elements, like, oh, you can't reach this part of the story yet because something, something, memory synchronization, something, something. Which is really annoying in a very open world game, because you can find a part of the sea that you can't enter. It's like, oh, this bit of the sea, yep, can't go in there because memory synchronization. This actually happened when I was having a fight near there. I couldn't go to one half of the ship because one half of their ship had gone past the grey line. So I couldn't fight in there, I could only fight on the other half, which was the dumbest crap. And constantly going near it made the screen go grey and saying, oh, memory synchronization, something, something. It was really annoying. Like, all of those silly little elements just kind of need to go. This is the most open world of the Assassin's Creed games so far, but it can't quite get away from gating that open world content, from stopping you going everywhere. And, of course, it just makes the excuse lol video game now, instead of lol something memory synchronization, but also video game. Ugh. I think you'll have a decent time with it. But again, if you're looking for a piracy simulator, you're probably not going to enjoy the depth of it too much, even though it's a very beautiful game and it's still a lot of fun to play. And yes, maybe the storyline will make it happen for you. You may be disappointed with the depth. If you're an Assassin's Creed fan, well, it is more of the same. Yeah, probably better than AC3. Definitely an interesting setting. Shame that they've... I wouldn't say they've even dumbed down the character progression because it was never really that great to begin with, but they did focus a lot more on the development of the ship as opposed to anything else. Which I guess is quite nice. I mean, the ship is a character in and of itself. I guess I care more about the ship than I do about Edward Kenway, but there you go. It's a step in the right direction, is what I will say. But the next Assassin's Creed game for me, I think, has got to be different. Yeah, it really has. It's got to have had a significant overhaul in its combat system, and it's got to be less of this masturbatory power fantasy. Edward Kenway right now is literally a god. Yeah? How many guards have I slaughtered in the last 10 minutes? Nothing can stop him. The only thing that can stop him on the high seas is a man of war, and good luck even finding one of those. I just want a challenge in my game. And I also want my skill to be rewarded. And the game doesn't really do that outside of the optional stealth aspects. I'm never rewarded for skill in combat because it is just pressing the same button over and over again. So that doesn't really require any actual skill. It requires you to pay attention. Yeah? Press B at the right time. That's the only thing it's ever really needed. So, you know, let's see Assassin's Creed 5 go somewhere different. Not necessarily in terms of... I would actually like to see another Black Flag game. I gotta be honest, yeah? Do another pirate game. You've just developed a really good naval system. Why the hell not do more naval stuff? But expand on it. Don't be afraid to really completely shake up the way that the game works. Because it's enough of this. I've had enough of this. This is like 7, 8 games now of the same bloody thing. And changing the setting every once in a while is not enough to make me want to continue playing. But if you've been a long-time fan of Assassin's Creed and you still like what Assassin's Creed has to offer in its formula, then you will certainly enjoy this. If you haven't played one in a while, you'll probably enjoy this as well. If you've played all of them and are kind of getting tired of it, maybe not so much. And I don't think that naval exploration will quite give you enough to justify playing it again. There you go. There's my conclusion on Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, ladies and gentlemen. Step in the right direction, but a lot of more of the same, and a PC port that very much has your mileage may vary written all over it. So be afraid, be very afraid. My name has been TotalBiscuit, taking a look at Assassin's Creed 4 Black Flag, currently available on Steam, and of course, Uplay, which you will be forced to use, by the way, so beware if you're not a fan of that system, for $60 or your regional equivalent, also available on PS3, PS4, Xbox One, and of course, Xbox 360. Thank you very much for watching, folks. Apologies for the sneezes, the sniffles, and the blowing of the nose. Hopefully I'll be feeling better in the next couple of days. I'll see you next time.